talk a little bit about the origin of sort of this show, the idea of bringing all these different characters from the two universes together? I
think it was like a fever dream of the network president, Mark Pedowitz. I mean, it was, it sounded too good to be true. Like, when I first heard about it, like, it just seemed logistically impossible to do like an ensemble action show on network television. And so it was the sort of thing that, like, couldn't believe it was actually happening, and still kind of can't believe that it's actually happening. But yeah, it was all sold on the basis of that sizzle reel that you guys have probably seen and will be seeing again today.
What was the process of sort of selecting which
those characters
from these shows, and then which new characters we want to introduce with this show?
I mean, the way I look at it is just like if you were doing like a reality series and you're trying to choose for the maximum sort of volatility, like the most unstable sort of configuration of characters, instead of just doing like Justice League where you had like everybody who's essentially, they're different but they're all working for the same thing. We just wanted like maximum chaos. So just trying to figure like who would be the most disruptive element to add to this like soup. And so it's a very like anarchist sort of mentality behind the show, like, what's the maximum amount of just like chaos that we can create like interpersonally between our characters.
How did you select the cast?
Oh man, that was Greg Berlanti, who's been doing this a while. I think basically went through his Rolodex, if people still use Rolodexes, and just like called in a lot of favors. And it is this sort of critical mass thing that like once you have talent, it's easy to get more talent. And so it's sort of like, well, geez, Victor Garber's doing it. It can't be like, and then Wentworth Miller, and then, Arthur Darvill. And then before you know it, you're just like, you have this sort of critical mass of people who all believe that, like, wow, if there's this much talent, it has to be something special. And it really is. It took on a life of its own where you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that these people are actually agreeing to do this. Like, I hope they know the madness that they've signed up for.
There's a spectrum of how to tell time travel stories on television. 12 Monkeys is maybe at one end with like serious cause and effect, and like Doctor Who at the other end with like more like time and space. Can you like place where Legend of Tomorrow might be?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I don't want to name shows, but there have been things where the sort of the dramatic narrative falls apart under the weight of trying to like justify the sort of astrophysics of it all. And like, I think Back to the Future was probably the first film that I ever like saw like 4 days in a row in the theater when I was a kid, and to me that was like the perfect balance of like, it makes emotional sense. And if you can look at a Polaroid where somebody's disappearing, that's all the explanation I need to explain the physics behind it. Our show doesn't dwell on sort of lengthy deliberations of, it doesn't, if your head starts to hurt, it's probably means that you're not following the parts of the story that you should be following. I mean, there are parts of our show that get very philosophical, but it's on a human level, and I think it is about sort of trying to save the world, but it's also a meditation on like, if you could go into your own past, if you could change something in your own life, if you could look into the future, what would you want to see? And so it's meant to be much more on the human scale, because everything else of our show is so like writ large. The action and the sort of concept is so big that in order to ground it, there have to be things that are very plausible and relatable. So, yeah.
Circling back to talking about the interpersonal relationships, I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about the characters. Do they not want to work together? Do some of them want to work together? Are there different degrees of that sort of thing? Yeah, I
mean, I will say this: like by the end of the first season, like we've had characters who gravely wounded, if not dead. We will have people betray the team, in irredeemable ways. And part of the that it is sort of an anthology show, and it's not designed to go in its current incarnation for 5 seasons. Like most network television, it's sort of rinse and repeat. And how can you tell the same story without changing the DNA? But that's not what we're doing with this show. It's really, these 16 episodes are meant to be a serialized sprint to a finish that will leave the characters changed forever, and or season 2, if we're blessed with one, will look nothing like season 1. And so that's one of the fun things about the show is you're able to introduce things that are so cataclysmic that you couldn't do it on a normal sort of procedural show where everybody has to be back to square one next week, and all the bruises are healed and all the horrible things that were said have been forgiven. That's not our show.
Can I ask you about...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can we expect about a participation of Oliver or Barry during this season?
Whether we'll have crossovers with those guys? We certainly will, and we would have more if not for the fact that those two gentlemen are killing themselves on their own series. But we will, it's our intention to return to Central City and Star City, either in the future, the past, or both, and try to imagine alternate worlds in which, to me, that's kind of half the fun of doing this show is imagining what Star City looks like in 30 years, and what the consequence of our team having left it would look like, or the butterfly effect of doing one tiny thing in the 70s. What does that mean in the present? I think stories, back to your question about what kind of time travel, I like the idea of what leaving this device in 1950, what would that mean for the post, I think that's cool. That's the kind of geek stuff that I really like to imagine.
I just want to ask you about Firestorm real quick. It's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
When you realized that Ronnie Raymond was not going to be available, let's just say that, why the choice to not reintroduce Jason? Why introduce a whole new character as Martin's partner?
Oh, I don't know. That all of those decisions sort of predated my involvement with the show.
Is that sort of a bigger DC decision?
No, this was just I didn't come on as showrunner until after the ship had sort of sailed. But I worked with Robbie before my first show, Tomorrow People. So for a second I was like, oh, this would be so great to work again. But I gotta say, I'm really excited about it's yeah. That's all I'll say.
As an actor, to sort of create your own Raven?
Definitely less pressure, but it wasn't the less pressure that allowed me to kind of do my own thing necessarily. It was just the fact that nobody had done it before. So in live action, and the producers allowed me to kind of just run with it. They wrote and I read what they wrote, and we talked a little bit going forward what their expectations were. And I tweaked him just a little bit, whereas maybe he was a little bit more flashy, a little bit more hard-hitting with his jokes and his cockiness. I toned it down just a little bit as we progressed, and nobody said anything, so I kept going because it was a little bit more enjoyable for me to be that way. But it was a blast. That was definitely one of the reasons I wanted to take the role, was the comedic aspect and the fact that I could. I was the first guy doing this, so I got to put my stamp on it.
Excellent. Can you talk a little bit about the transition of breakup over this season with Legend of Tomorrow, since in Arrow and a little bit on the Flash, he's kind of just getting into this understanding how it is to be a superhero.
Yeah.
Where is he now when you get into Legend of Tomorrow?
Ray's been through a journey, which we'll discover kind of in Arrow season 4. His time away, and then kind of coming back will be dealt with, and he definitely has distinct feelings about that, which motivate him to take on the challenge of joining Rip Hunter's team of Legends of Tomorrow. I can say thank you. That definitely will be utilizing the suit and all its capabilities much more in Legends of Tomorrow than he ever did. Well, really shrunk except for the promo. So it'd definitely be a lot of shrinking so far in the first couple episodes, and really fun stuff planned for how to utilize that and make it cool story-wise and action-wise.
Sarah and Ray have kind of an interesting dynamic in relation to each other in that they know and love some of the same people, but haven't maybe interacted with them at the same time. Is that something that's addressed in Legends of Tomorrow, or is it a relationship?
Not at this point. We're in a lot of scenes together. big 8-hander scenes, 8 of us all in a scene together, which is crazy to shoot. But because of that nature, we're usually chasing something, or we're like mission debriefing, or we're doing something. So there, a lot of the scenes are pieces here, and relationships are getting established as we go out in 1s and 2s and 3s, or not 1s, but 2s and 3s, to go on missions or submissions throughout the episodes. And so far, we're kind of, there's only a couple times we're only 3 episodes in, so some of that stuff will come out in those pieces, and that's one that so far we haven't quite hasn't been established, other than a little asides, but it's all like, what's your name? I don't know. We're just fighting this thing. Come on. I don't know if I can trust you, but I have nobody else here, so let's go do this thing. Which is kind of a cool way. We're just like thrown together, and you have to save the world, and then we'll figure out, your favorite color later. Yeah.
What's the relationship like between Ray Palmer and Martin Stein? Seeing that they're both scientists, and what's it like working with Victor? Victor's
awesome, and he just got married. Apparently, which is pretty amazing. We have had some stuff in a recent episode, a lot of stuff together, which has really been a joy working with him. And definitely we have a unique relationship, which I won't talk about. But Ray and Martin Stein definitely, they're kind of a little bit at odds, the whole thing of not meeting each other before, and but they're also fascinated by this technology, so they all kind of want to almost one-up each other with like, they probably can time travel because of this quantum thing and this thing over there. So it's fun.
Are there younger fans that have discovered the DC universe through the Arrowverse that don't know about your previous work with DC?
Oh, I think probably. At cons the last few years, especially the last year, I've had people who come and say, "I love Ray Palmer," or "I loved you in Chuck," or something, and their buddy's like, "He was also." They look at the pictures and like, "Oh, he was in Superman. You were Superman." So that just ages me for one, But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I take it as a great honor when people would say, "Oh, I didn't know you were in Superman." They feel bad, but I would feel like that's great because it means I've done enough other things that people recognize me for other things other than Superman. Not that that's a bad thing to recognize as Superman. Love it.
What can you say about these two characters? The good things and the bad things. Superman, the one that you're playing in the show.
Mm-hmm. What are the positives and negatives?
Yeah.
Of playing them, or the characters as a whole?
No, of playing it.
Sorry, is it from a character base or from a personal?
Personal.
It's just amazing. All the negative is only in bad times when I'm feeling sorry for myself. Is there any room for that negativity? And usually I try to get that out of there. It points to something. People worry about getting typecast and this kind of thing, but it's only if you really focus on that and make that like something to fight against that you've really created that truth about yourself, that it is an obstacle that you have to overcome. Just let it go and embrace the awesome characters that I get to play and the entertainment value for that people seem to get out of being able to play these characters, bring them to life. It's awesome, and this is the world that I'm creating for myself. I guess it's pretty good.
Brandon, thanks over the series, and what's her relationship going to be with Carter Hall when she meets him?
All right, let's start.
Let's get right into it.
So we meet her on Flash. She's just moved to Central City, and she has no idea that she's a reincarnated demigoddess whatsoever. So Hawkman comes into the picture, and obviously I think he's a lunatic because he's like, we're lovers, and I was like, yeah, no, pretty sure I would remember that. But eventually she does obviously sprout her wings and start remembering what's going on, but it's a bit of a struggle and a slow process.
Is it going to be, it must be fun as an actress to sort of have that arc, know the history of where these characters can go, and have the experience to sort of live that out throughout this season and possibly
yeah
future.
Oh my, I think they were so smart to pick the reincarnation timeline, because there's so much we can do with that, especially
rather than the alien.
Right, the Thanagarian version is like, it's more cut and dry, but what's great is like, what if I feel like we have this new world, Earth 2, happening in Flash. Like, what if Senegarian someone wants to come out of that or something? Like, there's endless possibilities. We could have a million hot girls running around by the end of it. Who knows?
You seem very well versed in the history of the comic character.
Trying to be. Yeah, I actually wasn't a comic book person necessarily. I've always been a little bit of a like anime geek, but like not comic books. But luckily, I've bought so many and read lots and lots and lots. Read Hawk World and started with it's a lot, but I love it. I actually really like it. I didn't think I would like comics, but I love them.
What was it like finding out that you were going to be a superhero?
It was kind of one of those moments of like, duh. Like, because I've always loved anime so much, and I've always wanted to come to Comic-Con too. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I wanted to come as a night elf. So, but yeah, I just was like, this is so freaking cool. Like, who doesn't want to be a superhero? It's amazing. Yeah.
Would you say that your most volatile relationship on the team is with Hawkman, or is there someone else that you're really at odds with?
I think right now she's definitely very focused on Hawkman and that relationship because he's kind of integral to her learning how to use her powers and remembering all her past lives. So, yeah, I think right now that's kind of the biggest rub.
Just to follow up, is Hawkman an official member of the team, or is he just sort of peripherally in your story?
I'm not sure if I can divulge that.
Fair enough.
Okay.
How's her relationship with Sarah, since you guys are really the only two girls on the team?
It's hard because Sarah is a little bit of a closed-off character. She's been through a lot. And come back from the dead and all of that kind of stuff. We have that in common, at least. We like, but you know, thus far we haven't had too much interaction, just because there's been so much action going on that it's just not have the time for that. But I'm looking forward to having some scenes with her, and I think it's going to be great. We're going to see kind of every relationship really get to play out, and we have just this disparate group of crazies, you know, and very, very funny, very, very serious, very, very this, very that. So it'll be really interesting.
Phil spoke before about Legends being set up as an anthology series. How far into Legends are we going to see the mythology of Hawkman and Hawkgirl realized?
That is like the very first thing I think that we're doing, especially since we're setting me up on the Flash and Arrow first. That's kind of an integral part to what's going to eventually happen. So, you kind of learn pretty quickly about that.
I know there's a lot, you mentioned before that there's a lot of action in these first few episodes and a lot of time for character interaction, but is there another character on the team that Kendra really clicks with immediately or has had some good interaction with?
I mean, really, it's just been so much she's reeling. I mean, she finds out she is reincarnated, she finds out she's a soulmate, she finds out basically the small town girl that she thought she was is not who she actually is, and she starts training, she's learning how to fight, and she's also found out that there's a man coming after her trying to kill her. So there's really not that much time for her to talk to anybody else.
Are there any characters from her life before she's joined this team that are still part of her life or mentioned? Or?
No, I think she kind of is, she broke ties a little bit, not in I think like a dramatic or bad way. She just was like trying to figure out who she was. I think she's always kind of known that there was something different or off about her, but she had no idea that this is what it was. But I think she kind of makes the move away from home and away from everything she knew, because it wasn't right for her, and she just knew that. Yeah.
What's the costume and the wings been like? What's that been like for you? Was that when you were to have that kind of an apparatus and then to get to fly on screen?
Flying is the coolest thing I've ever done. I love heights. I love flying. I love being on rooftops, and we used to do that all the time. It's really cool. It's not necessarily the most comfortable experience, but it's totally worth it. The pros outweigh the cons. Luckily, I don't have to have like a giant 50-pound wing pack attached to my body. CGI is a blessing. But the costume is really cool. I really like the way that we make them more realistic, more grounded. It's an earthier toned costume. It's not bright green and red and yellow, you know.
Is there a bit of a hawk head on
yeah, and the mask, we went back and forth about the mask. I didn't know if we were going to do it. We were like, I don't know, does she need it? But I'm actually really glad that we have the mask. It makes me feel like a totally different person, a different persona, you know, so it's cool.
And does she carry a mace?
Not presently, she does not. Hawkman is the only one who has a mace.
Mm-hmm. Is there a possibility of her getting the mace?
I think there's a possibility for her to do a lot of things.
Can you talk a little bit about preparing for the physicality of the role?
Yeah, I'd actually started boxing before I got the role, and so I've been doing that a lot. And it's actually been super, super helpful, even though clearly fighting on camera is not exactly the same as actually punching someone in the face. But that's been really helpful, and I've dabbled with Krav Maga a little bit, and I'm looking into Muay Thai. I mean, there's not been anything specific that we've been looking for, basically because she's learning all these things. I don't have to be an ace at anything yet, which is great. But Hawkgirl has been fighting for centuries. She knows every fighting style, and so I'm trying to try as many as possible. So I've got it. Jiu-Jitsu's next, you know. I'm just trying all of them right now. So.
Do obsessed fans expect you to know everything about Hawkgirl from the last 80 years?
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm not too shabby.
No,
I've been doing my research. I definitely have a lot to catch up on, but hopefully they'll be lenient with me.
It's an incredible ensemble group of actors that are joining. Victor Garber, Brandon, Wentworth Miller, Dominic Vercelli.
Yeah.
What's it like being a part, just as an actress, being a part of this ensemble?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing to work with really creative people who are willing to try a lot of different things and to live in this crazy universe that's totally unrealistic in every way. It's like you really have to trust the people you're working with to stay committed to this world that we're creating. So it's been amazing. Everyone's so talented.
Are you hoping to see some Hawkgirl action figures?
Oh my god, I cannot wait. I can't wait. I want the first one.
Have you been scanned yet for a figure?
I've been scanned for lots of things. Lots of scans. So, yeah.
Are there any time periods you'd like to play Kendra in?
I really want to do the 1920s. I would love that. And the other thing that I really love about the Hawks is that they've lived all over the world. At first when I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, she's been reincarnated in America for the last, cool. But no, I was like, no, they've lived everywhere. That's what's so cool. I would love to do 1920s France. That'd be cool, you know what I mean? Or somewhere in India, or I think that would be so fun. Yeah.
With the time travel aspect of the show, is there any chance of maybe flashback seeing the lives of the before reincarnated
Yeah,
lives?
I think there's a huge possibility for it, so we'll see. I think, again, they were really smart to pick the reincarnation storyline because there's so much we can do with it now. And I'm like, I have a million things. I'm like, Phil, what about this? What if we found a Hawkman in the picture? What if we did this? And what if we did a Hawkgirl here? And what if there were 3 Hawkgirls that accidentally ended up in one time period? That would be cool. Not that it's happening, but I'm just this is me dreaming. Yeah, it's really awesome.
Thanks, everyone. I want to ask you about playing Rip Hunter because he's one of my favorite characters from the comics, and he's spanned over 40, 50 years. And there's been lots of different challenges of the unknown, and then Booster Gold, and all these different versions of him. Did you kind of look at all of that and take different things, or are you just going off the script they read?
Well,
they wrote.
I think you can never know too much. Do you know what I mean? And also, I could sit at home reading comics and say I was working, so it was great. But yeah, I read. What have I read? I read some of the real early Time Master stuff, which is we're gonna go and kill some dinosaurs. It's I don't know. It's very action adventure-y. And then what was the other Vanishing Point story, which I thought that's my favourite one. I thought it's great with Superman and Booster Gold. And that's a really interesting relationship. But yeah, as you say, what they've done is taken that and taken who he has been, but he's kind of been various different things in the history of DC, and then turned it into something new, with kind of paying homage to the past. But he's a fascinating character. He's got a lot of secrets and a lot of stuff that he doesn't want to let on, and a lot of stuff he can't say. because of the nature of his work, because he's a time traveling man who is keeping the course of history straight, and he's had a lot of stuff happen to him, and what's great about the way they write, and I think they found such a great balance with this show, is that it does get very dark and serious, but there's also a real lightness of touch to it as well. So it's also very, very funny as a show, and it's been really interesting finding the balance of those two things.
Will some of those secrets of his history kind of come out as the series is unfolds?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, to a point. He's had quite an interesting past or future, whichever way you want it.
Do you think your Doctor Who fans will like Legends of Tomorrow, and what would they make of your character on Legends?
I think there's going to be obvious comparisons, being an Englishman in a long coat who travels through time. I don't think. I went into this, I'm not going to go, no, it's completely different. There are obvious similarities, but I hope that they'll enjoy that. I'm fascinated by time travel as a concept. Rip is very, very different to the Doctor. I spent the reason I've lost my voice, I spent the last 2 days fighting, which is not something that the Doctor does very much of. And I totally lost my voice. I've just been screaming in a room, punching people. So it's been it's a really interesting new challenge.
You mentioned being an Englishman in a long coat.
Yes.
And there's another Englishman in a long coat, John Constantine, who's going to be appearing in this universe soon. Was there any concern about trying to not make Rip, to make a real difference between these two characters and not have Rip become too Constantine-ish?
No, do you know what? I'm not even really thinking about that. He is who he is, do you know what I mean? And I've been given such great scripts to work with, and you can go, oh, I want it to be like this, or I don't want it to be like this. And actually, when you come down to doing it, what's there on the page is its own thing anyway. And I can't say much about that. I'm really excited to explore this guy. He's very different to anything I've ever done before, and he's very much kind of team leader, which is a good new challenge for me.
Who would you say Rip has the most volatile relationship with on the team? And does he have a good relationship with anyone in particular?
I think it changes, you know what I mean? Like, Heatwave is obviously a tricky character. He's recruited a bunch of maniacs, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're going to really get on. And I don't think he's thought his plan through that far. He's like, we need to do this. These are the people that can do it. Let's get them and go. I think he hasn't quite thought, are we going to get on when we're, making coffee in the morning to get, that's not really been a consideration. And he doesn't need to get on with them, actually. He just needs them to do the job in hand. And I think he kind of underestimates quite the challenge that he's set himself.
We're looking forward to having Rick Hunter action figures and all.
It's the only reason I'm doing the job. It's just, so I can make my action figures fight. But it's funny you say, because it's so great being part of an ensemble like this. The way I like to describe it is, I don't know what you guys did when you were kids, but when I was a kid I had like my He-Man figures and my Thundercats and my Ghostbusters and my Visionaries, and the best days I ever had were putting all of them together and making all the goodies fight all the baddies, and this show feels very much like that. It's like everyone's got such individual personalities and their own thing. It's quite an amazing thing to be part of.
How familiar with the character of Rip Hunter were you prior to being cast?
I'd never heard of him. And then they sent me a shit ton of comics to read, which was great. I was like, there's a massive box in my house, what is this? And they sent me loads of comics. So, it's been really interesting to explore that and call it work.
Can you talk about how you prepare for the physicality of the part? Like you talked about the fighting.
Yeah. I think I should have prepared more. I've done some light training, let's say, some kind of martial arts stuff, and I just want to know how to throw a punch and not look like I look when I throw a punch, which is like a kind of gangly child. So yeah, it's been a really interesting challenge. Like, I definitely err to the lover side of the two as a person, so it's quite nice to play someone. It's been a real challenge, actually, but in a good way.
Yeah, I'll see you in Vancouver.
Yeah, I've been working out a bit, but I feel like such a twat when I say that. But yeah, I've been working out a bit for this.
Well, as you know from the comics, Rip has a very close relationship with Booster Gold.
Yeah.
Is that referred to at all, reference in the show, or is Booster Gold off limits at this
point? No,
Booster
Gold's off limits at the moment. I think there's enough to deal with at the moment with all that, but I think their relationship is fascinating.
Do you play with that a little bit in your head?
Yeah, I think he's definitely got that. I think so much has happened to Rip, and he's got so... In fact, he's travelled through lots of different timelines. It's like he's spinning plates, and there's so much going on for him, I think. So yeah, so I very much do think about that, which is good. I think there's such a it's such a privilege to play a character from the DC Comics world, and I feel a real responsibility to do it in a responsible way to all the people who've spent their lives reading it. Do you know what I mean? And then also to take it further and to provide like an excitement of what could be new to it. So yeah, it's a great position to be in.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Real quick, I want to get a shot of that.